You almost scrolled past this, didn't you, my child? Part of you felt curious, but another part pulled back at once. You have grown used to words meant for crowds, promises thrown into the air, comfort offered so broadly it never seemed to land on your particular life. Beloved, you have wondered whether anything tender could really be meant for you without condition, without performance, without someone else more deserving standing in front of you. You have carried that question quietly. Why would this be for me? Why now? What if I hope for something personal, and it is only another passing moment that was never mine to hold? Dear heart, that weariness did not appear overnight. It has been building through ordinary disappointments, through prayers that seemed to drift upward without answer, through days when you kept functioning while something inside you felt unchosen. Precious one, there have been hours when your outer life looked manageable, yet your inner life felt strangely dim. You completed what needed doing. You responded when people called. You handled what was urgent. Still, beneath all of it was the quiet ache of wondering whether you had somehow been missed. Sweet soul, I know how that thought forms. Not always loudly. Sometimes it slips in gently, wearing the face of reason. It tells you that comfort is for other people who are stronger, cleaner, more certain, less complicated. It tells you that clear direction is for those who have not made so many mistakes. It tells you that special care belongs to the ones who look steady from a distance. My dear one, that is not wisdom. That is hurt trying to become your interpreter. And hurt, left unchallenged, will often speak as though it knows the whole story. Loved one, listen carefully now. This is not an accident. This is not random comfort floating by for whoever happens to notice it. This reaches toward you in the middle of your actual life, your actual fatigue, your actual questions, your actual tender places you rarely show anyone. Not toward a polished version of you, not toward the version you think would be easier to love, not toward the self you promise to become after you fix everything that feels unfinished. Toward you, as you are in this moment. Beloved, I am not vague about the ones I love. I do not cast care without knowing where it falls. I do not offer peace without understanding the weight inside your chest. I do not speak comfort into empty space hoping it might fit someone somewhere. I know the room you are in, even when no one else notices how tired you have become there. I know the hour when your mind becomes loudest. I know the memory that still catches you off guard. I know the private disappointment you keep revisiting, as if one more look at it might finally explain why it hurts so much. Dear heart, I know the way you can be surrounded by people and still feel strangely outside the circle of being understood. I know how you replay conversations after they end. I know how you search for what you should have said, what you could have done differently, where you might have turned the story in another direction. Precious one, you have been hard on yourself in ways others never even see. You have judged your own tears. You have criticized your own sensitivity. You have made your needs sound embarrassing inside your own mind. You have called yourself weak for wanting reassurance, for wanting clarity, for wanting something that feels solid enough to rest against. Sweet soul, I do not speak to you with that sharpness. I do not roll my eyes at your tired heart. I do not stand back and call your tenderness a flaw. I do not measure your worth by how little you need, how quietly you ache, or how well you hide the fact that you are struggling. My child, this moment is personal because you are personal to me, not as a number, not as a face in a crowd, not as a passing thought among countless others. You are known in the particular details you assume are too small to matter. The way you go quiet when something hurts deeply. The way your shoulders tighten before your thoughts catch up to what you are feeling. The way you carry on because stopping would mean finally admitting how worn down you are. Beloved, nothing about you is lost in the blur. Even the parts you do not know how to explain are not hidden from my care. Even the parts you think are too messy for gentle attention, are not disqualified from tenderness. Dear heart, you have mistaken silence for absence before. You have assumed that because the answer did not arrive in the form you expected, you were being overlooked. But there is a difference between being forgotten and being held through a season you do not yet understand. There is a difference between delay and neglect. There is a difference between stillness and abandonment. Precious one, some of your deepest ache has come not only from what happened, but from what you concluded about yourself because it happened. A door closed, and you thought, perhaps I was not worth staying for. Someone misunderstood you, and you thought, perhaps I am too difficult to love. A prayer lingered unanswered, and you thought, perhaps I am not important enough to be heard clearly. Loved one, those conclusions were born in pain, not in truth. Pain narrows vision. It makes one moment feel like a definition. It makes one loss feel like a prophecy. It makes one silence feel like the whole future speaking in advance. Sweet soul, I want to lift that false weight from you. You are not forgotten. You are not incidental. You are not somehow standing at the edge of my attention waiting for enough goodness, enough discipline, or enough faith to qualify for what is tender. This reaches for you now because I know how close you have come to believing otherwise. Beloved, there are moments when a candle is lit in a dim room, not to impress the room but to prove the darkness is not final. That is what I am doing for you here. Not spectacle, not pressure, not a demand that you become instantly radiant. A steady light, small enough for your tired eyes to bear, clear enough for your heart to recognize. Dear heart, you do not need to force yourself into certainty tonight. You do not need to manufacture emotion to prove you understand. You do not need to perform gratitude while confusion still lingers. You may simply rest in the possibility that these words have found you on purpose. That possibility alone may feel fragile at first. That is all right, precious one. Healing often begins long before confidence arrives. Sometimes it begins when a guarded heart finally hears language that does not threaten it. Sometimes it begins when someone speaks with enough gentleness that your defenses do not know what to do. Sometimes it begins when you realize you do not have to convince me that your ache is real. I already know. My dear one, I know how exhaustion can make everything feel impersonal. When you are tired enough, hope starts sounding generic. Care begins to feel scripted. Kindness seems meant for another kind of person. And even beauty can feel like something you admire from a distance without expecting it to step toward you. Loved one, that numbness has not offended me. I have not turned away because your response was slower than you wanted. I have not demanded perfect openness before I draw near. I have stayed patient with the pace of your inner world. Beloved, consider how often you have tried to be strong by making yourself smaller. You silenced your question before anyone could dismiss it. You reduced your need before anyone could call it too much. You lowered your expectations before disappointment had another chance to speak. You called this maturity. Sometimes it was survival. Dear heart, survival deserves compassion, but it does not deserve to rule the whole future. You do not have to live forever arranged around old pain. You do not have to keep editing yourself down to avoid being hurt. You do not have to assume that what wounded you once will define every room, every season, every relationship, every quiet hour ahead. Precious one, this message is personal because your healing is personal. I am not working with a template. I am tending to a real life, a real story, a real heart with its own history of strain, its own hidden fears, its own quiet forms of bravery. Sweet soul, you have survived things you rarely name, not only dramatic losses but small repeated wounds. Being overlooked, being misunderstood, being the one who carried more than was visible, being expected to stay calm while inwardly you were fraying, being strong enough for others to lean on while secretly wishing someone would notice that you too needed a place to rest. Beloved, I have noticed. Not once, not occasionally, not only when your faith felt bright, I have noticed through the dull days, the distracted days, the cynical days, the days when you barely knew what to say at all. That matters because you have sometimes believed you are easiest to love when you are spiritually articulate, emotionally composed, and inwardly certain. But you are loved even when your thoughts are tangled, even when your prayers sound more like sighs than sentences, even when all you can offer is your weary attention for a single moment before your mind wanders again. Dear heart, I am able to meet you in that moment. I do not require a polished entrance. I do not demand that you arrive without doubt, without sadness, without resistance. Bring the whole truth of where you are. That truth does not repel me. It gives me room to touch what hurts without your pretending it does not hurt. Precious one, one of the reasons this reaches you personally is because shame has been trying to make you anonymous. Shame always pushes in that direction. It tells you to hide in general language, to keep your sorrow unspecific, to keep your needs invisible, to believe that if anyone knew how deeply certain things affected you, they would step back. Loved one, shame is wrong about that. You do not become less worthy when your struggle has a name. You do not become less beloved when your wound has history. You do not become less welcome when your heart needs careful handling. Beloved, I know where this touches you. It touches the fear that maybe your life has become too ordinary for holy attention. It touches the ache of being faithful in small ways and still feeling unseen. It touches the part of you that has asked very quietly, would anything ever come straight to me? Dear heart, yes. This does. Not because you earned it with perfect patience. Not because you finally reached some level of inner refinement. Not because you managed to hide your weakness better than before. It comes because love is capable of being direct. It comes because I know exactly how to find you through your defenses, through your doubt, through the noise that has been pressing in on you. Precious one, listen without rushing. You matter in ways you have underestimated. Your staying matters. Your softening matters. Your quiet acts of decency matter. The tenderness you have kept alive under disappointment matters. The fact that you still long for what is true and kind after everything that could have hardened you matters. Sweet soul, you are not late to your own healing. You are not behind because you are still learning how to rest. You are not disqualified because the same fear returns in a new voice. Growth is not always a straight ascent. Often it looks like returning to the same place with a little more honesty, a little more steadiness, a little less self-hatred than before. Beloved, be tender with that process. Do not despise the slowness of your becoming. Do not call yourself failing simply because healing does not happen in clean, dramatic lines. There are parts of you that learned fear carefully. They will learn safety carefully too. Dear heart, I am not in a hurry to handle you roughly. I am able to work at the pace where truth can sink in without crushing you. I am able to repeat care in new forms until your heart starts recognizing it as something real. Not all at once, not by force, but surely. Precious one, there is another image I want to place before you. A letter placed by hand at the correct door, not sent wandering through the world at random, not dropped carelessly for whoever might claim it, but brought with intention to the name for whom it was written. That is how this comes to you. Not vague encouragement, not borrowed comfort. A true reaching, a direct kindness, a word carried to the threshold of your inner life. My child, you do not have to argue with tenderness when it finds you. You do not have to prove you deserve it first. You do not have to stand there cross-examining every good thing until your tired mind has drained the warmth from it. You may allow a little space for being addressed. You may allow for the possibility that love sometimes knows exactly whose name it is calling. Loved one, I know you have been disappointed by things that looked promising and dissolved in your hands. I know you have heard words before that sounded beautiful but did not stay with you when the night grew heavy. I know you have feared being moved for a moment only to feel emptier afterward. That fear is understandable, but this is not trying to entertain your emotions. It is trying to steady your heart. Beloved, there is a difference. One vanishes when the feeling fades. The other remains as quiet strength when the room grows dim again. And that is what I am placing before you now. Not a thrill, a steadiness, not a passing lift, a deeper rooting. Not an escape from your life, a more truthful way of standing inside it. Dear heart, this may begin to change how you speak to yourself. When the old accusation rises, you may remember that you have been named with care. When loneliness whispers that no one truly notices, you may remember that your life has not slipped from loving attention. When shame tries to push you into hiding, you may remember that being known is not the same as being condemned. Precious one, this may also change how you move through ordinary hours. You may answer yourself more gently when you are tired. You may stop treating every difficult emotion like a failure. You may become slower to assume rejection. You may leave room for good things to be real without immediately predicting their disappearance. Sweet soul, these are holy shifts, even when they look small. A softer inner voice can change a whole day. A steadier sense of worth can change a whole season. A little less fear around being seen can open room for the kind of peace you once believed belonged to other people. Beloved, I do not promise that every question will vanish tonight. I do not promise that every loss will suddenly make sense. I do not promise that your heart will never ache again. But I do promise this: your ache is not the whole story. Your confusion is not the whole story. Your past disappointments are not the whole story. And the hidden conclusion that you are somehow peripheral to love and care is certainly not the whole story. Dear heart, what if you stopped standing outside your own life as though the best tenderness must belong elsewhere? What if you stopped reading yourself as an afterthought? What if you began very quietly to believe that the same care you admire from afar is willing to come close and sit beside your actual pain? Precious one, that belief would not make you arrogant. It would make you honest. Because humility is not agreeing with neglect. Humility is not thinking yourself unworthy of gentleness. Humility is simply telling the truth. And the truth is that you are deeply known, deeply valued, and still being tenderly guided through places that once made you question whether you mattered at all. Loved one, there is relief waiting in that truth. Relief from the exhausting work of trying to earn what can only be given. Relief from the cold habit of dismissing every comfort before it reaches your heart. Relief from wondering whether there is a place where your whole self can be met without you first becoming someone easier to hold. Beloved, there is such a place, and even now you are nearer to it than you think. Not because you have done everything right, not because your faith never flickers, not because your emotions have become simple, but because love has been drawing near all along, even through your uncertainty. Dear heart, rest a while from the pressure to interpret everything. Rest a while from the need to explain why you are tired before you are allowed to be comforted. Rest a while from the suspicion that every good word must belong to somebody else more prepared, more polished, more impressive. This has come into your hands. Let that be enough for this moment. My dear one, you may sit quietly with it. You may carry it into the next hour without forcing a conclusion. You may return to it later when the room grows dim and your thoughts begin their old restless circling. And when you do, you will find that what was spoken gently still holds. Loved one, I remain attentive to your real life, to the hidden places, to the unspoken fears, to the hopes you barely let yourself name, to the fatigue under your daily responsibilities, to the tenderness you thought had become too bruised to be addressed so directly. Beloved, I have not mistaken your door. I have not confused your name with another. I have not lost the thread of your story. This nearness is deliberate. This care is intentional. This quiet reaching has found you because it was carried to you on purpose. So settle a little, precious one. Not into perfect understanding, but into gentle certainty that you have been remembered. Let your heart grow still enough to feel how carefully you are being held. The night does not have the final word over you. The old ache does not have the final word over you. And the fear that nothing tender could arrive with your name upon it does not have the final word either. Dear child, rest here for now. Not at the edge of being overlooked, but within the warmth of being personally called. I remain near, quiet and steady, and I will keep watch with you in this stillness. Amen. Beloved family, we faithfully continue creating God messages for you each day. Your encouragement truly strengthens this mission. If you would like to support this work, the support link is available in the description and in the comment box below. Thank you for your prayers.